Natalie and I are getting ready for our morning yoga practice, and so I thought you might like to see the standing version of the joint freeing series that I do to get warmed up and ready. So my name is Cheryl Gordon, and welcome to this little video that will get you moving for whatever you need to get done today. So I'm going to start by taking my hands together in a prayerful position at the heart. I often will close my eyes and tilt the chin down slightly towards the heart. This is a chance for me to gather my attention into my moment-to-moment experience and to notice my breathing. Slowly over a few breaths, I might start to slow down and deepen and generally relax into a nice breath cycle. And I'll be using this breath cycle to help pace the movements. And then let's begin with the joint freeing, which starts at the toes. So I'm going to actually look at my toes to see what's going on, and I'm going to inhale, lift and fan the toes, and exhale, gather the toes up like I'm trying to bunch the mat up under my feet. I'm going to do that a few times. So I'm alternately stretching a lot of muscles in the feet and then gathering some important muscles in the feet that help keep the plantar fascia healthy and give me mobility in my feet. After about 3 breaths, I'm going to switch to a different movement and roll as I inhale to the outside edges of my feet, and as I exhale, roll to the inside edges of the feet. As best as I can, I'm going to keep the knees and the shin bones facing forward and parallel, and just concentrate this movement in the ankle joint. And do that one more breath. And then I'm going to move on to coming up onto the balls of the feet as I inhale, and rocking back to the heels as I exhale. This involves a little bit of balance, so you can always have a chair beside you or a wall beside you, or if balance or getting up and down from the floor is an issue, we have other versions of the joint freeing series that use a chair, so you might want to look those up. And now I've worked the ankles in a number of different ways. I'm just going to give them free range of motion. So as I inhale, I'm going to circle the ankle around in one direction, and exhale, switch directions, and I'll do that for one more breath. And then while my leg is lifted, maybe as I inhale, I'll work the knee into a straight position, and exhale, easily bend. And you notice each one of these movements is slow because I'm timing it to that breath cycle that I set up right at the beginning. Let's do the other leg. It's always interesting when both feet come back to the floor. Things are changing all the time, and in this particular frame of mind, I'm inhaling as I go one way, exhaling as I go the other way. I can really pay attention to those subtle shifts and flows of sensation. That's the beauty of yoga, I find. Inhaling as the leg straightens, exhale as the knee bends. This is a great way to warm up the joints before you load them up with other activities throughout the day. The muscles remember the correct and easiest way to fire. Okay, so we've moved up the legs. We're starting to talk about the hips. I want to maintain mountain pose in my body as much as possible. Sometimes hands on the actual hip bones are helpful to just maintain that steadiness and that evenness to the hips. As you inhale, take one leg out to the side slightly. Exhale, touch back down. You notice that my body is staying straight up and down. It's easy to lift your leg really high if you throw your body to the other side to counterbalance. Let's see what the other side of my hips is doing today. I'm inhaling as I lift and exhale as I lower. These movements look pretty simple, and they are, but they're actually very informational and educational for my brain. Let's move into something different for the hip. As I inhale, lift the leg forward. As I exhale, pull the leg back. I'm making each of these movements within a very comfortable range of motion. So I'm moving slowly so I can really feel the stability of the pelvis as I let the leg bone move. Let's try the other side. It's normal for each of the legs to have a different journey in life, so I might have different sensations. I'm inhaling as the leg comes forward and exhaling as it pulls back. And we have one more thing to think about for the hips. So I'm going to return to mountain pose, get settled, and I'm going to think about external and internal rotation. Again, the hips are stabilized, the pelvis is stabilized, while I let the hip joint itself have mobility. On the inhale, I'm going to externally rotate the femur, move out, and on the exhale, I'm going to turn the thigh bone in and move back. Notice that my pelvis around here, it's kind of like I'm wrapped with saran wrap, and I'm not really doing very much movement in the pelvis. Sometimes in our classes we joke about Elvis the pelvis, but I guess I'm dating myself there. Let's try the other leg and see how that goes. Inhaling, externally rotate the thigh bone. Exhale, internally rotate the thigh bone. This wakes up a lot of the muscles that are typically sleepy in our hip joints and helps us come into some of the more complicated postures in yoga, like warrior poses. All right, so we've moved right up the legs. We're going to repeat the same methodology for the arms. So we'll start with the fingers. As you inhale, fan out the fingers. Exhale, give them a little squeeze. Again, we're not pushing to our full range of motion. A lot of older adults that I work with have arthritis in their hands, and some of that can come from pushing and squeezing and using the muscles too much over the years. Then as you inhale, roll the wrists in one direction, exhale, roll in the other direction. I know this seems like a very slow pace of movement, but we're just greeting each joint with compassion and curiosity and even playfulness. Inhale, stretch the arms out. Exhale, bring the hands gently to the shoulders. So now your poor, underappreciated elbows have a chance to star in the show. And after this, we'll move into shoulder joints. I'm going to shift slightly so you can see a little bit more of what's going on in the upper back. As you inhale, shoulder blades gather into the spine. As you exhale, shoulder blades separate. So this movement might look like I'm trying to do something with the arms, but I'm thinking a lot more about the upper back. Really getting those shoulder blades so they float around on the back ribs and restore mobility to my whole upper spine and shoulders. Good. Next movement, we'll come into shoulder extension. On the inhale, flex the shoulders on the exhale. Now again, just like we did with hip movement, we're trying to maintain mountain pose in the body itself. So there's not a lot of swinging forward and back with the torso. This is already starting to get your core muscles into a healthier place. Then from here, we're going to move into abduction, so taking the arms out to the side as we inhale. Exhale, hug the arm bones and tuck them back up into the shoulder sockets. And doing that a couple times. This is preparation for the movements of arms overhead that you might have in sun salutation or maybe some warrior poses. And really warming up all the connective tissue in the shoulder joint itself. Then inhale, come into kind of a surprised position with your arms. Exhale, rotate under. And you might notice when you're moving the arms together like this, one arm does something different than the other arm. That's normal. Keep your movements within a comfortable range of motion where you're not getting a lot of clicking or clunking. These movements should not be painful. Then when you're ready, inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, lean to one side. Again, the feet are staying very, very grounded like they would in mountain pose. And I'm just trying to stretch between the hip bone and the armpit here. That's the real goal. So what if I didn't want to hold my arms up over my head, if that wasn't healthy? Well, then I just have the hands here, inhale and exhale. So this movement is about the spine, not about the position of the arms. Okay, now let's move to table pose. This is where you can run into a little bit of trouble if you have trouble weight bearing on your knees. So again, you might want to look into the video where we use a chair, and then you don't have to do this particular movement. So from table pose, we'll work on flexion and extension of the spine. I find extension of the spine is the one that I have to concentrate most on. So let's work on that first. I'm thinking about my backside, and I'm trying to push my backside towards the wall behind me. So I'm lengthening the lower back. I'm not pinching it up. I'm lengthening the lower back as I push the backside towards the wall behind me. Simultaneously, I'm gathering the chest and drawing it forward through the arms. So if you look at me from the side, I hope my body looks like the spine is smiling at you. So this is the inhale position. My belly is not dumped loosely to the floor. The belly is feeling stretched, but toned. So we'll take an inhale here. And then on the exhale, I'm going to think about that belly and I'm going to start to pull it in towards the spine, like I'm trying to look skinnier. And then use that fulcrum of movement, that belly gathering in, to create a cat stretch. I'm going to move back and forth a few times with a slow breath, focusing on really letting the individual segments of the spine start to have a little movement apart from each other. Shoulders stay over the wrists, hips over the knees. Just a few simple breaths here. But there's a lot of exciting things happening along the spine. The last thing is twist. The last movement for the spine is twist. Now I want to be real careful when I come into my twist. So you notice I'm using a blanket as a prop. You might want to sit in a chair for this or use a bolster. But I'll show you what I'm looking for when I come into my seated twist. I want to see that the hip joint is higher than the knee joint. There are days that this doesn't happen, days I look more like this. So if that were happening, I would sit up in a chair or take more height underneath my sitting bones. You want to make sure you have this alignment of the hips over the knees, because that means that your pelvis can sit in a nice square, even relationship to the floor. And like any building, if the foundation is nice and square, the whole tower goes up nice and strong. If the foundation is crooked, the whole tower is going to be crooked. This could cause some long-term problems for vertebrae that are trying to move against each other. So important to align your pelvis in a nice square relationship to the earth and then grow a straight tower up from there. Now you're really going to start to focus on your core. Inhale, extend and lengthen your body, sit up as erect as you can. Exhale, gather the belly in just like you did in cat-cow, and then do your twist. Notice the arms really don't have any job here. Inhale, come back to center, sit up really tall. Exhale, gather the belly in. Now twist. So the twist actually happens at the end of your exhale. Each breath, repeat that commitment to exhaling and using the strength of your core muscles before twisting. This protects your low back, avoids overusing the SI joints in your twist. It also prevents us or encourages us to keep the head in line with the breastbone. So when I come from side to side, I'm not really cranking the neck to look way over that other shoulder. Perfect. Now I'm ready to move on to any number of other activities. Namaste.